Good evening, welcome to Wednesday's Midlands Today from the BBC. Tonight, mixed fortunes for our region as the government names a series of new enterprise zones with the aim of creating thousands of jobs. Hereford has been chosen as one of 11 new locations across England, but applications from Stoke-on-Trent, Coventry and Kidderminster have been rejected.
In Stoke, the decisions provoked a political row with accusations the process was unfair. Local Government Secretary Eric Pickles defended the decision, saying the neighbouring enterprise zone in the Black Country would have benefits for Stoke. Andy Newman takes a look at the winners and losers here in the Midlands.
One winner, three losers on a day of mixed economic fortunes across the West Midlands. This will be the site of the region's only new enterprise zone on the outskirts of the Rotherwas Industrial Estate in Hereford. A huge pile of rubble from former wartime buildings will be used for the foundations of the new business park. Those behind the bid are predicting around 50 firms here and up to 2,000 jobs by 2015, with more to follow.
We said in our bid that this would be the biggest opportunity for Herefordshire since the Second World War, and we mean that. At the end of the completion of this park, we could have 6,000 jobs.
This is wonderful news. It's what we've been looking for, because we have an ambition in this county to raise the average salary and wage of people from 19,000 to 225,000, and this is the first step in that aim.
So what are the actual benefits of being in an enterprise zone? Well, for a start, there are lower taxes, such as business rates, less regulation to ease planning applications, along with other attractions such as super-fast broadband.
No such benefits for today's losing bidders, among them Kidderminster and Coventry, where the enterprise zone would have been based around the airport.
We're naturally very disappointed. We put forward an excellent proposition, creation of up to 14,000 jobs, solutions to a serious highway problem at Tollbar roundabout.
In Stoke-on-Trent, hopes had been raised when David Cameron gave this answer to one of the city's MPs earlier this year.
And yes, I'll certainly ask my right honourable friend the Chancellor to look at whether it can be in the next lot of enterprise zones, because we want to help the pottery communities that she represents.
But today, anger at the news that this site in the Etruria Valley will stay empty. The bid had failed.
I was quite astonished when I heard the news, because we'd not long had the Prime Minister up here in Stoke-on-Trent promising that we would get an enterprise zone here in North Staffordshire. And then over this, of course, this recess, this announcement is sneaked out that we haven't got it. It's just incredible.
It's really disappointing that we haven't got the North Staffordshire bid. It's particularly disappointing given previous comments from the current government about how they might support the North Staffordshire area.
Overall then, from today's announcements, mixed emotions. Hereford alone with cause to celebrate. The losing bidders can only look on and contemplate what might have been. Andy Newman, BBC Midlands Today.
Well, our political editor, Patrick Burns, joins us now. Patrick, let's start with what really is a particular disappointment, isn't it? In Coventry, Stoke-on-Trent, Kidderminster, all places that have had jobs problems and frankly could have done with a lift.
Well, that's the thing about beauty contests, Michael. You get more losers than winners, don't you? And the government say these zones are very, very specifically targeted at those places that they think can really start motoring if you take the brakes off in the way that Andy's just described in his report. Now that, of course, as we've seen, doesn't convince many Labour MPs. Joan Whalley in Stoke-on-Trent North says that the government have based this decision around party political considerations. Now that has brought a typically forthright response from the minister in charge of this, dismissing that allegation.
It's utterly ridiculous. We're putting these into Labour areas, Lib Dem areas, Conservative areas that haven't the remotest idea who controls. I mean, for goodness sake, I mean, this is about regeneration. I think that comment says more about the people who said it than it just says about government policy.
Well, success for Hereford, as we've obviously been talking about, but they have got their critics, haven't they, these enterprise zones? Not always such a success as they made out to be, are they?
In fact, Suzanne, the government have been accused of just recycling an old idea which dates back to the 1980s. And remember, Merry Hill shopping centre in the Black Country started off as an enterprise zone under Michael Heseltine. That leads to the other charge that far from creating new jobs, they merely relocate or indeed destroy jobs, because if you look around a lot of the local high streets around the Black Country that have struggled since Merry Hill was built to compete against the big rival attraction just down the road.
That's always the challenge. Patrick, thank you very much indeed.
Well, unemployment may